Welcome everyone. And recording is in progress. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mark Myers. I'm city manager for the city of Bath, also the president of Mid-Coast Council of Governments. And we'll go through and do a roll call and introductions. We'll work through the people who are here in person, and then I'll go through Zoom. So
hello, I'm Sally Costello. I'm the Economic Development Director for the town of Brunswick and a board member.
Hi, I'm Brian Dankos. I'm the Deputy Director. Welcome, everybody.
Matthew Eddy, I'm the Executive Director for Mid-Coast Council of Governments.
Kelly Grover from Thomaston, to be member of your executive committee. You'll have Thomaston.
Kara George, Thomaston Town Manager.
I'm Meg Rasmussen, and I'm going to be joining MCOG as the Community Resilience Planner starting in July. I'm here just to observe.
Mary Jane West, I'm a planner for MCOG, working on housing and farming issues.
and we've got a couple more in person, so I'll go through Zoom in a second. Mary Ellen, if you want.
Mary Ellen Barnes, Lake County Regional Planning, sitting in for Carrie Kipford.
Julie Kaiser, town manager, town of Waldoboro.
Max Johnstone, Mid-Coast Council of Government staff, and guy with the headphones on for this meeting.
And I missed my optometrist appointment this week, so this would be a good exercise. I think I can read everything on the Zoom board. Andrew.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Dorr, still newish town manager in Damascotta.
Christine.
Hi, Christine Poland, town administrator in West Bath.
Peter.
Peter, you're muted.
Peter, we didn't hear you. You're on mute.
Hi, Peter Lieberworth, a volunteer from Harpswell.
Jen.
Hi, good morning. This is Jen Curtis. I'm the planner for Town of Bodenham.
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey Jordan, I'm the Deputy Director of the Mid-Coast Regional Redevelopment Authority.
Nicole.
Nicole Briand, manager for Town of Bodenham.
Betty.
Betty Johnson, I am the Waldoboro County Commissioner.
Kate.
Kate Birch, planner for the Town of Topsom.
Andrew Hart.
Good morning, Andrew Hart, Knox County Administrator.
James.
Hi, James Kasuth, Administrator for the Town of Northport.
And I'm guessing Julie, but whoever we have joining us from City of Rockland.
She's there. She might be indisposed. She's
okay,
driving.
But at least listening and joining us. Well, welcome everyone. We're going to go past the approval of minutes for the agenda. We don't have the draft minutes from the last General Assembly, and go right through talking a little bit of a president's report, going into then reports from the bylaws and nominating committees. Certainly.
As you go through, you want to share this?
Yeah.
This slide.
And Max is going to bring up for those of you on Zoom the PowerPoint presentation. Folks have copies here. Yep. So if people in attendance have copies, they're certainly on the big screen in the back.
Those are one fancy one.
Great fancy one. So Max, if you can just go ahead a couple once you get set.
Extra copies of the slides. Sorry. Yes. Oh, thank you.
So
yeah.
President's report.
Yeah, so we'll move ahead to the president's report on there. And I'll just briefly touch upon some of the key points that we have on here. Certainly there's been changes significant in the organization over the past couple of years, beginning with the retirement of Bill Napower as the executive director. And then during the search for replacement of the executive director, the executive committee and the board of directors really found discovered a need to be able to review what the organization was all about and whether the work that the organization and staff were doing really reflected and was being communicated properly. So we put a pause for that search of a replacement to then hire Frank O'Hara to come in and run a couple of planning exercises that we had at the Camden Snowball, to then be able to really sit down and go through what people wanted this organization to be. And really what it came down to is that we had been Mid-Coast Economic Development District, but in reality, our communities were looking for, and staff was really providing what is provided by a traditional council of government. So a name change took place as part of an action plan to really advance forward as Mid-Coast Council of Governments. That then led in turn to another search for an executive director, where fortunately we were joined by Matthew Eddy on board. Certainly brings a lot of experience in planning and development, and also within the region itself. A great addition to lead our organization into the future. So the goals as we advance forward here for the organization. First, and this was a component of the executive director search, is creating a strategic plan for Mid-Coast Council of Governments. The ability to have a more engaged board of directors, which I'm thrilled to have some more involvement with General Assembly today and into the future, to be able to move forward with an engaged and active board of directors will help the programming and staff regionally to be able to be fitting all the needs of the communities. Improving communication and having a balanced work plan. Being able to reach out to the counties and the municipalities and other organizations to be able to really tell them the work that MCOG is doing and what the organization offers, and then be able to build and foster some of those relationships that we feel can exist regionally. Increasing, again, capacity of the organization to be able to provide a broader level of services to our communities. Creation and approval of a technical assistance policy to help guide staff and communities to have an understanding of what is involved with what the organization is able to offer. Creating an in-house capacity to be able to handle organizational finances. That has been, and kudos to Matthew and Brian, who preceded him, as in the interim role of really helping getting the organization's finance in order. Now Rockport offering financial services as well to help the organization. And then what I like to think we've already accomplished as a goal, hiring an energetic executive director to implement these goals. So I'll roll through real quick the mission statement. The mission of MCOG is to strengthen the capability of member municipalities and counties to act individually and collectively to make Mid-Coast Maine a better place to live, work, and play. This involves developing and implementing a regional economic development strategy, identifying, developing, and implementing regional strategies for other pressing issues and opportunities, mobilizing resources in the region, including member municipalities and counties, business and economic development organizations, environmental and conservation nonprofits, schools and research laboratories, and others to implement regional strategies. Providing technical assistance to municipalities and counties to effectively design and implement planning and development policies. Advocating at the state level for policies and funding that support regional and local planning and development strategies, and exercising other such powers as member municipalities and counties may delegate. Other recommendations that came out of those planning exercises, as I touched upon before, the change from MCED to MCOG, revising the executive director's job and role, approval of a conflict of interest policy to better define that, and revisions to the bylaws, which we will talk about shortly. And so next I will turn it over to Sally Costello to talk about the efforts that the bylaws committee has gone through.
Thank you, President Myers. First of all, I just want to start off by saying that this was a very collaborative effort. We had a committee, and I want to just read off the names of the committee so that you know who was involved. Julie Hashem with Rockland, John Shattuck with Topsom. We were lucky to have John Shattuck because some of the members did not have a very long history with the organization, myself included. And we had Andrew Hart. We had Brian Doyle with Thomason, and let's see, did I get everybody? I think that's everybody. And so we had also, the other thing is we had really good input and collaboration from the staff, which was really important. Again, they had the history. We started off, as you know, having 2 organizations. What came out of that board retreat in November was a desire to collapse those organizations so that we can function under one corporation. So we started off by going back to the original MCOG bylaws from June of 2017. So working from that as a base. We met, and we actually met in person, which was lovely given COVID, that we had work sessions, several work sessions in Thompson to go over really the strategy to incorporate what came out of the strategic sessions with the board, but also to look at other models. So we looked at other COG models, KVCOG, GBCOG, AVCOG, and then we kind of took the best of all of them to really, what we'd heard from our members is that our bylaws were a little disjointed and not so easy to follow. So we took the best of those and sort of set up that template. And then some of the other things that we did were that we looked to incorporate our new mission statement. And we looked to collapse what was an executive committee into just a board, because the board and the executive committee tended to be the same folks showing up, and it was a lot more work. And we also thought it would be more efficient. Part of what we were trying to do is streamline and simplify these meetings and this process so that we get the best representation, but it's also efficient. So we had recommended having just a board, which most of the COGs have, up to 17 members. And so let's see what else in there. We also had, once we got it to a certain point, we then turned it over to staff because we felt that we needed to have a legal review. The MCED organization needs to stay intact for the moment because that is where money funnels in from the EDA, and we want to make sure that in this time of all of these grants that we don't have any situation where we're just not able to function with that entity, because we really largely operated under MCOG, even though we went by the name of MCED. But we're closing out some things with MCED before we actually, and we're working with the EDA just to make sure there's nothing in the transition that prevents us from being successful with our applications. So those are kind of the major things that we did. I think it's something that is really important, is that we have some of the more legal things that within the bylaws where we operate as a council of governments, and we wanted to make sure that we included under Title 30A, Section 2023, which we didn't have before, which relates back to being a regional planning commission style membership, because that is what the other COGs have, but that also is important as it relates to EDA. So we kind of double check that with our staff and with the with our legal counsel, just to make sure that we were handling those things properly and making sure that we were recording these various documents moving forward, because in the past, I'm not sure we met all of those deadlines, and we want to make sure that's not going to happen for the future. We again, of course, we hired a great new executive director who I can attest is doing a fabulous job. He's just hit the ground up and running, and he has been able to pull out documents along with Brian Dankos, who was recently elevated as well, that really helped us understand kind of the history, but also just how to move forward legally so that we're crossing every, T and dotting every I. So we did amend our purpose statement and we put in the new goals. We also reasserted the general assembly membership, that we would have 2 from each community, 1 elected official that would serve at the will of the municipal officers, and one additional member. If you have more than 10,000 in your population, you get an additional for each 10,000. So for example, Brunswick has more than 20,000 population. So we have 4 members. So it correlates based on population. We also, again, reasserted that the quorum for the General Assembly needs to be 25%, which we met today, and we want to make sure that we do so. And that's really because we want to make sure that we've got enough voices heard in all of these meetings to be able to go forward with certain actions. Again, we talked about clarifying the role of the executive director. I would say that we've expanded that in many ways. So we're really excited about that. But then the other thing that we did, given that we collapsed the executive committee into a board, is that we created this new committee. This was something actually the staff really helped out, both Brian and Matt. Is my understanding when they were talking to the EDA that they suggested that we create this new committee called the MCOG committee. This committee would have a primary responsibility for working to get the SEDS updated every 5 years. And we were just actually talking about this at the beginning about whether or not we were going to need to do that. So, but what the committee would be up to 17 or up to 15 actually. But it would be more representative. So it wouldn't just be, we could pick folks from our various communities. They could be business folks. They could be people who are involved in the town. For example, I think one of the goals we have is around sustainability. So I would like to bring in our marine resources. When we start to align our SEDS, we can think about who those members might be in our community that can help us broaden our representation, but also our knowledge base. So I think we'll be coming back to you all. I want to just verify this with Matt and Mark about how we're going to be selecting those. It's my understanding that we would have the various members bring those members, recommend those, and then the nominating committee would choose from those. If we had more than the 15, or it's a minimum of 15, so we may be able to accommodate everybody. But I just wanted to.
That's what I would think would be the process for that.
Okay. And I think that is it. Does anybody have any questions?
And Max, maybe, I don't know if there's a way to be able to see on Zoom. Yeah, if anybody has any, I want to be able to see whose faces on there in case people have questions or. So any questions around the bylaw changes? Those changes also were circulated. I think we have copies up here in advance of the meeting. Yeah.
Mark, may I ask a question?
Sure, Julie. Good morning.
Yeah, sorry. Did I understand you to say that the membership would necessarily be an elected official as opposed to a choice of the municipality of staff or an elected official? I want to make sure I heard that right.
So one elected official and then one other official that could be designated by staff.
Would it be possible to just leave it optional whether it's an elected official or staff? Because it may well be in a community that the 2 likely designees are both staff.
We're utilizing the language of the statute, Julie, which really does require us to have a mixture of, elected officials and staff. So I still would leave it up to the community as to what their ultimate choice is. But-
All right.
And I think as the language is written, it says one elected official or designee serving with the will of the municipal officers, and then one appointed by the municipal officers for 2 terms. So there, I think there's, for
Thank you.
to a little bit of your point, Julie, I think there's some flexibility there.
Yeah, I would say that, so we've got our town manager who rarely comes to these. So I think there's designees, as Mark suggested, so who can be accommodated.
Thank you. I had remembered the statute as leaving the flexibility there. So thank you for clarifying that it remains.
Any other questions?
Andrew Martin.
Okay. Hi, Andy, you have a question?
Yeah, actually, I just had a question on the, I guess on follow up on the membership. So for the county, I mean, we currently have 2 representatives. There's Commissioner Pullman as the commissioner, and then myself. Where it says 1 representative for every 10,000 population, would we have more than 2 then? If I read that right?
I think that's just specifically for municipalities and not the county.
I'm not asking to have more. I just want to.
No, I think the intent behind that is for the municipality and not for the counties.
Okay.
And yet to assure that the counties, you know, particularly with the dues paying process that we have for Saginaw and for Knox, that the county in fact has representatives on the board and can vote. And I think that's an important part of the process. It makes us a little different from most of the other organizations in the state.
So there wouldn't be any reason to clarify that further, right? So there isn't confusion with that, you think?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I think it's clear, but I'll double check.
Okay, thank you.
We could just put something in, some language in there that states that from each community, but then we could add something related to the counties that said that will be.
Yeah, I think I'm just forgetting where it is.
Is it? I don't remember it specifically saying counties any differently.
It does.
Under section 4, I don't see. Oh, it does. There's a sentence there. It says each member county within MCOG area shall have 2 representatives to the General Assembly to be appointed by county commissioners.
Yep.
Yep, it's in there. Sorry about that.
Sorry, I couldn't remember exactly where it was.
Does that make sense, Andy?
Yeah. So it's in the similar section. It's in the same section, right?
It's in the membership section.
It's in that
Okay.
Article 5, Section 4.
Okay. Yep. Perfect.
Last sentence in there clarifies on counties.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yep. Any other questions? Seeing none, we do need a motion to accept the bylaw changes. So if anybody would like to make a motion.
Not all at once.
We have a motion, second?
That was Bill Hahn and Julie was the second. Thank you.
All in favor?
Let me,
Are we?
yeah, let me.
We're partially on Zoom. We have to do.
yeah,
Did you
let
take
me,
roll,
end the
Brian?
slides that
You want me to?
see if-
Did you? Yeah. Did you? Can you go through roll? Because I think we have to do
Yeah,
a roll
we
call
have to
vote with
roll
some
call.
Zoom participation.
No.
Yeah. Did you take attendance? Sorry. Did you take attendance when you
Yes.
were doing? Okay. Yeah. If you want to.
Okay, so I get the list, sorry.
Yep.
Well, I have the participants right here.
Sure. If you
That
want
would
to
be fine.
go through that, Max, that'll be great. This isn't clunky. It's fine. We'll make our way through.
So just roll call vote. Andrew Dorr,
Yes.
Peter Lieberwith,
Yes. Approve.
Andrew Hart,
Yeah.
Christine Poland,
Like Elton John and Rocket Man and your song, Benny and the Jets. It's kind of hard though. They're kind of like around the same time, but they're not necessarily.
I'm gonna mute Betty for now because I hear a lot of background noise. Jeffrey Jordan. This is to approve the bylaws. Jeffrey, you're mute. Hello, Zoom.
He can put it in the chat.
Yeah,
That's it. That's a handout.
okay.
Julie Hashem. Yes. Kate Birch,
Yes.
Nicole Brienne,
Yes.
Jennifer Curtis,
Yes.
James, and I'm sorry I mispronounced his name. James Kosu,
Yes.
Eric Skripczynski. Not hearing anything. I think I got everyone.
Okay, we'll make our way around the room here. Charlie,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Mary Ellen,
Yeah.
Julie. Sally?
Yes.
Okay. Motion is passed. We made our way through. Next up, we have the report of the nominations committee, which I'll roll through. And as the bylaw changes have taken place, but the nomination committee is responsible for presenting a slate of officers and directors for the General Assembly. The slate you will see today is based upon the previous year's executive committee. Basically, this was to get us to an operational board of directors position with our minimum 9 members. The plan would be in the fall for the board of directors to be increased up to the full 17 members, but ability to move forward today, at least have a functioning board was important. The board of directors officers slate, myself, Mark Myers from Bath as president, Audra Kaler from the town of Camden as vice president, Jeffrey Jordan from here in the town of Brunswick as treasurer, and Betty Johnson, Waldo County as secretary. And then the board of directors as Nicole Brienne from the town of Bodenham, Sally Costello from the town of Brunswick, Andrew Dorr from the town of Damascotta, Julie Hashem from the city of Rockland, Amber Jones from Saginaw County. Then we've had some changeover members, but in the executive committee, we've had a member from Knox County, the town of Rockport, town of Thomaston, and town of Thompson, which sounds like Thomaston we've already worked through who will be next on that list. Any questions about the slate of officers or the board of directors? I'll take a motion to accept the slate of officers and board of directors.
So moved.
I have a motion from Nicole, second.
Second.
Excellent. And we got the kinks out the first time. Roll call vote. Work through Zoom first, Max.
Of course, you can make me do this.
You did it so well.
Andrew Dorr,
Yes.
Julie Hashem has also said yes in the chat. Christine Poland,
Yes.
Peter Liverworth,
Yes.
Jeffrey Jordan. You just give a thumbs up. Yep, that's a thumbs up. Betty Johnson. Yes, I see a thumbs up. Andrew Hart,
Yeah.
Jack Curtis,
Yes.
Kate Birch,
Yes.
Nicole Brian,
Yes.
James Joseph.
Yes.
Derek wasn't, I think Derek's waiting in his office. So. That's it.
Charlie?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Mary Ellen? Yeah. Julie?
Yes.
Sally?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you all. And I also want to give thanks to Nicole Briand and Amber Jones, who helped me out in the nominations committee process. Next up is budget.
And I'll be
Turn it over to you, Matthew.
be glad to go through that. First, I want to thank Brian Dankos. He and I have, as I think Sally alluded to, spent a lot of time pulling apart the books and putting them back together. We are in the process of having an audit. I talked to the auditor this morning, and that audit will be final and to us by the end of next week, which is what we had planned on doing. Initially, so that you all know, because we had so many retirements and folks leaving the organization, combined with the receiving COVID money and funding to help with all the loan and direct business grant programs that we did during the pandemic period, we have a fair amount in the bank, about $300,000 in savings account and another 100 to 150 coming in from EDA and back billing. So we are feeling very comfortable with where we are financially. And it is our intent to utilize that funding over the next 2 or 3 years, invest in the organization and to build the programs that we think the communities want and desire so that they can function as municipalities, and so that we can really develop a regional cohesion and plan for the MCOG region. So with that being said, the budget has some basic assumptions in it. And if you were to go to the expense slide, you'll see that we are asking for 4 full-time employees, 1 regular part-time, 1 part-time contract, and the sustainability planner to cover us over the next year. And in essence, what we're going to do, there's very few changes except for 1 item I want to talk a little bit about, payroll taxes that Jeff Jordan raised in our executive committee meeting. With that, there's not a lot of changes in our budget. Going into this next year, we've established what our accounting fee is going to do. We've established an audit fee. We will be doing audits every year. And we'll also have to be doing a single audit. So it's a slightly more complicated audit than we've had to do in the past, given that our funding is up over $750,000 a year. So we've increased the salaries under our staffing, and we're paying for that through the revenues that we'll be utilizing out of our surplus. And we're only tapping into that to the tune of about $100,000 in this first year. If you go to the revenues page, there are a number of new contracts that we're getting. The one that we were meeting on earlier this morning was the Municipal Technical Assistance Grant, which includes comprehensive planning and the Coastal Zone Program, in which we're going to receive approximately $45,000. We anticipate, based on our conversations with a number of communities, of having community contracts come in at $50,000. We have anticipating also funding through Maine DOT and both participating in the Community Partnership Resiliency Partnership Program with communities that will be applying, as well as the Housing Opportunity Program when that becomes available in the fall. And we think that those are all safe assumptions that we're going to be able to obtain those funding. With that being said, we'll be pulling out roughly 76,000, at least that we're proposing here. We're also slightly undercounting our dues. And we're also not proposing any major changes in the dues assignment, except to bring it up to the per capita based on the 2020 census and whatever updates are through 2022. And we'll be getting those numbers out to people shortly. We've put those together. But our intent is to utilize our surplus to begin to pay for the addition of our 2 planning programs. I should note, you'll note that the Rockport contract has ended. They were utilizing Orion Thomas from our staff. They've hired Orion full-time in Rockport, and that is a good solution for them. We lose a valuable team member in the sense that Orion has a very a good skill set, including GIS mapping. So that's what we need to look for a replacement. And certainly to help Meg Rasmussen, who we brought on as our sustainability planner, and to roll that program out, we're going to need those assets to be able to move forward. So with that's our expense and our revenue. The budget is roughly about $75,000 higher than what we'll ultimately spend this year, $100,000. And frankly, the reason that that's so much down is it was so long in replacing the executive director and going through this transitions with staff. I think I'll leave it to questions.
Does anybody have any questions regarding the budget?
One point of clarification, at the executive committee, Jeff Jordan was concerned about the high line item on payroll taxes. We believe that we would ask to leave that item the same as it is right now, but we believe it is high. That it appears that there was some double counting that we picked up in our accounting process for what we pay into payroll and then what the employees pay into payroll. We think that's the problem, but we haven't been able to, we won't know that for certain until Friday.
Seeing no questions on the budget, I'll entertain a motion to approve the budget.
Make a motion to approve the budget.
We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second,
Second.
Was that Nicole?
That was Nicole.
Nicole.
Thanks, Nicole.
Go right ahead, Max. You're doing great.
I'll ask Nicole first.
Yes.
All right. Andrew Dorr,
Yes.
Christine Poland,
Yes.
Peter Lieberworth,
Yes.
Jeffrey Jordan,
Yes.
He's out on the island.
Andrew Hart,
Yeah.
Jen Curtis,
Yes.
James Kossuth,
Yes.
Kate Birch,
Yes.
Derek Stripping, Derek,
Yes.
Julie Hashem. She's saying yes in the chat, and Betty Johnson.
Yes.
That's it.
Sally?
Yes.
Charles? Bill? Yes. Julie?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you all. And next up, we will move on to upcoming events. The strategic planning process.
So part of what the board really impressed upon me, and I think I impressed upon them, it was a nice mutual exchange, was that we really needed to move forward with a strategic plan. And so we've put together a strategic planning process that we will be launching in the fall of this year, and we will be bringing the General Assembly back together as part of that process in an effort both to make the General Assembly meetings more engaging, and to provide interesting material about what's going on into the region, and to really provide a good planning forum in which everybody in the MCOG region can get together and talk. So the strategic planning process will have 4 steps. It'll be relatively tight time frame. We anticipate rolling out sometime at the end of September and being done before Thanksgiving. It has 4 steps, and the first 2 are defined by sub-regional forums. And what we're proposing to do, based on a lot of your input as I moved around the MCOG region and talked to the county representatives and a lot of the municipal representatives, was to break us up into 4 sub-regions: the Rockport, Camden, Rockland area, including Thomaston and surrounding communities there. Working with our Lincoln County representatives, and a lot of the great work they've already done in terms of strategic planning and incorporating it, but also reaching out to them and going through this process with them. The inland communities, the other side of Route 1, what we heard particularly from the administrators in Knox and Lincoln County, as well as Saginaw to a lesser extent, was the need to really reach out to these inland communities in a different way and to approach them in a different way. So we've identified that rural group that's on the other side of Route 1 that really behaves differently than the coast as an area we want to focus on. And then the Brunswick, Topsom, Bath area as our 4th area. And that first step, we will staff will put together a sub-regional data presentation. And then we will walk through a very basic SWOT analysis and ask the folks in each of those sub-regions to go through a priority ranking process. We'll go back to those sub-regions in a relatively short time, about 3 weeks, in which we will then have organized a lot of the findings that we had from that SWOT into a series of topics, actions, and begin to put some meat on those actions. And as they begin to develop as strategic goals and action plans, and then we'll ask everybody to prioritize those again. From that, we will bring what essentially is a draft of a first action plan to the General Assembly. And in that action plan, we'll run through the actions. Each action will have the financial resources needed to implement the action, the responsible parties, agency specification, state or federal, where appropriate, the time frame and the benchmark. And we're looking at this as a 5-year plan. So we'll organize everything in terms of what we want to get accomplished. We'll ask this assembly to review that, comment that, and then we'll have that all up on a wall, and we'll ask them all to prioritize that again. What does the General Assembly think is important after sharing some of the findings that we have in that initial plan? The 4th process will be to bring that back to the now Board of Directors for their approval, and we will develop our work plan as staff out of that process. I'm pretty excited about this. This is a process I enjoy doing. We'll do a lot of the facilitation internally, but I think it'll be really important for us to reset our General Assembly membership and take care of that. And then it'll be really important to lean on all of you to make sure that we get as much participation as we can out in those sub-regions, that participation in the sub-regional forums does not have to be limited to our membership. It can include other people in your communities that you think should be at that table to discuss whatever topic or area that they think is important: affordable housing, transportation, sustainability, marine resources. It's just such a key item in this region. And the whole issue of the supply and demand of housing and the supply and demand of workers for our employers who are looking for workers but can't find the housing for them. So we have some real issues that we have to struggle with as an organization. So I just lay that out as something to look forward to. in the fall. We as staff will work over the summer to begin to put together the data set that I think is appropriate to really spark some good thinking among all of us. Thanks.
Any comments or questions on the strategic planning process? It's been outlined thus far, but more to come certainly.
I have
Sally?
a comment and a question. So I think this is really great. You did indicate, that we would start this in the fall, but I'm just trying to get a better sense of the timing. And really because we all want to mobilize and make sure we get enough people there. Do you have some sense about how fast these phases will happen? Like, are there weeks between each one or?
I think there's, just from past experience, there should be about 3 weeks between each one, which gives the staff 2 weeks to digest all the material, organize it, review it ourselves internally, and then get it out a week in advance so that people have material to react to.
And my other comment is just that I know we're all really busy, but when you tend to have things kind of on a fast track and more consolidated, people tend to show up and they stay interested for longer, but also just to align with all of the resources that are out there to make sure we're in a position to regionally go after things. So are you
Yes.
thinking wrapping this up by the end of the year?
Oh,
Is that,
I would like to be done. And that's, I have to work backwards, but I'd like to be done before Thanksgiving. Because we lose people after Thanksgiving. So the idea is to squeeze it between Labor Day and Thanksgiving. In my mind, that you're really looking at a final product approval sometime around Veterans Day, either before or after that. We'll be out in about a month with some more formal dates as we sit down with staff and we begin to assess our short-term workload before we reassess the workload after we do the strategic plan.
Any other?
Jenna asked, will there be a specified performance evaluation process for the strategic plan?
Yes, I refer to it as benchmarking. We will absolutely be using a benchmark process.
Any other questions, comments on the strategic planning process? So that brings us to the end of our agenda for today, right on time and schedule. I do want to thank Julie and Waldoboro for hosting us here today and Max for coordinating the space. Hannah Sisk, who I don't think is on the call, but for coordinating and getting the materials out. Thanks everybody for attending. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second. We'll entertain the second.
I'm gonna say all in favor on that one. Great. Thank you all.
Thank you.